Hello, everybody. How are you? We're in Los Angeles in rush hour traffic. Decided to jump on and do some fun stuff. And I'm just going to freestyle this one and see how it goes. Whatever comes out, as long as it's clean. As long as I don't drop in a ill-advised word or two here and there, we'll just upload it as is. So this is 7 things you can only do in El Paso, Texas. So this is a continuation of articles that I'm writing for my book, Joe Ditzel Has Some Problems in Texas, which of course is part of the entire Joe Ditzel Has Some Problems series. Check it out at joeditzel.com. All right, here we go. 7 things you can only do in El Paso, Texas. Well, here's a topical one. Number 1, watch your presidential candidate melt down on national TV by playing one of his best cards way too early. And of course, we're talking about Beto and, wouldn't it be Beto? We're talking about Beto, and he was in the Democratic debates, and almost immediately he started speaking Spanish. Dude, hold that back. Hold that on your holster. Hold that in your... hold that card. Oh, man. Here's the way you play it. Sandra Bullock is from Texas. And at least this is my experience with her in this respect. And that is about a few years ago, recently in the last few years. Does that make sense? She's talking to the public about some topic, and she breaks into Spanish. Full bilingual, full-on Spanish. She's from Texas. For whatever influence, she learned Spanish. That's how you do it. Who knew? Who knew Sandra Bullock was fully fluent in Spanish? And I don't know about fully fluent, whatever you call fluent, but speak Spanish. That's how you bust it out, Beto. You don't do it right at the beginning of your first debate on TV. Now, he said, well, I did it because to establish a bond with the simulcast or the Spanish audience on Telemundo, who is also broadcasting the Democratic debates. I still say they would have wanted you to wait. People know. Don't people know? I guess maybe I just already knew that he spoke Spanish. He didn't have to prove it to me. But it became a meme. The problem with doing that is it immediately becomes a meme when you... And the look on Cory Booker's face and Elizabeth Warren, that side eye, like, oh? I didn't see it. I'm just going by what I read online and the pictures of Cory Booker, like, doing it. It really was pretty good. All right, enough of that. That's number 1. Things you can only do in El Paso, Texas. And number 1 is be stunned and shocked and possibly disappointed. It's up to you if you're disappointed or not that Beto broke out the Spanish in minute 1 of his appearance at the Democratic debates for the 2020 election cycle. So, okay, we're freestyling today. How many were you doing? 10? All right, let's go 2. This, by the way, if you don't know about these videos, they're completely ludicrous. I just make them up off the top of my head. So, number 2, you can stand in El Paso, Texas. And speaking of speaking Spanish, you can yell across the Rio Grande. You can shout across the Rio Grande, and an echo will come back in the other language. So you can say, hello, how are you? And your voice, your exact voice will come back translated. Hola, ¿cómo estás? It's an amazing thing that only happens in El Paso, Texas, and perhaps that's what happened to Beto. Oh, that actually was pretty creative. Your echo comes back and fully translated. See, now that's why I get the big bucks for doing this, guys. That was pretty good. Big bucks? What big bucks? What am I talking about? I remember for months YouTube says, "Why aren't you monetizing your channel? You could do it." You know, I have a small channel, right? But they still said for 2 or 3 or 4 years there's a message. Click here to be monetized. And then I got a message one day that said, "You are no longer eligible for monetization." And I'm like, what, did I wait too long or what happened? And they made a new rule that you had to have 1,000 subscribers, which is not that hard, but what can I tell you? And 4,000 hours of watch time in the last 12 months. And I think that's what it was, yeah. So, and then I did one of my goofy videos about, I know this is a sidebar, but just bear with me. We're stuck in traffic. Let's just say I did a goofy video. That'll make it simpler. And this one guy didn't like it. And he's like, "Man, this is rotten. This is bad." I'm cleaning up his language. You're doing all this for the clicks and the monetization. This is on YouTube. And I wrote a reply. I go, "Monetization? What monetization?" Well, how many commercials did you watch on my channel? None. Or maybe YouTube's, but not mine. That was funny. Or what are we at? We're at 2? God, this is going to be a long slog, right? All right, number 3. Number 3. And again, you got to disregard any connection to reality on these. Otherwise, I won't be able to freestyle it. Number 3 of the 10 things you can only do in El Paso, Texas. You can go into a Mexican restaurant in. No, let's get off of that. Let's get off that vein. We did Mexico. Let's see. You can go into a restaurant in El Paso. All right, let's just make up something totally ludicrous. You can go into a restaurant in El Paso, Texas, walk up to the maitre d' or the greeter or the waitress on duty or waiter on duty and say, "Hi, I'm friends with Cousin Laramie, and I'm here to get my free meal." And they will sit you down and feed you for free one time a month. No, let's make it. They will feed you for free as long as it is your birthday, the 4th of July, or the anniversary of the birthday of Charles Schulz, creator of the Peanuts comic strip. All right, there you go. That's number 3. Oh, La Policia is out here. Oh, lane. They're closing lanes. There you go. There you go. That's why. I'm telling you, this town's traffic is a wreck. Speaking of which, in El Paso, Texas, you can hitchhike on the freeways. It's the only city in the United States that you can hitchhike on the freeways, completely legal, as long as once you get a ride, you offer the driver your reheated lasagna that is still warm. All right, that's number 4. Hey, they're not all gems, folks. nor is any of them. Nor are any of them. I'm having more fun creating this ludicrous video than I have in a couple of weeks. All right, that's 4. Number 5. Only in El Paso, Texas, can you go to a city council meeting, and during the time period where local citizens can vent their frustrations or their concerns before the city. Anybody can come in, no matter where you're from, you can come in and vent frustrations about El Paso in front of the El Paso City Council. No matter where you're from. You could be a visitor and had a bad experience and you're mad, you want to tell somebody about it. Like, for example, there was a man from Canada, from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, that was vacationing in El Paso, Texas, visiting his cousins, when he went to a local store and bit into a cotton candy from the cotton candy machine out front of the store. And unbelievably, he broke his tooth on a Welcome to El Paso token that is passed around by the mayor as the mayor goes to and from his public duties. And this, you might say, well, this Canadian was trying to rip off the city by not exercising care in their own regard. But seeing that it was an El Paso token, Welcome to El Paso, they decided to take the city to court, and they announced it at the city council meeting. Well, the city council stood and applauded, and the reason being, that was the 100th person that had broken their tooth on this Welcome to El Paso token that was inside the cotton candy at the machine outside the local store. And the city council had long before said, when we get the 100th complaint about these tokens that the mayor hands out on a regular basis, that person will win a trip for two. And now this is where it gets kind of twisty and turny. A trip for two to Calgary, Alberta, Canada. The guest from Canada, from Calgary, broke their tooth and won a trip to their hometown of Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Nowhere else in the United States would that happen except for El Paso, Texas. What are we up to? Is that 4? Let's just say it's 4. And, well, let me see. Yeah, let's just say it's 4. If not, we'll we'll just say it's a bonus. If we have extra, we'll just say they're bonuses. So that's the problem when you make them too long and ludicrous. You lose track of the count. All right, number 5. Number 5 of the things you can only do in El Paso, Texas, and that is refuse on your own volition, with no penalty at all, to pay the El Paso city tax. If you don't want to pay the city tax, you can instead lend your labors, your physical labor, to the city in one of 3 venues: highway cleanup, park cleanup, or number 3, ride a unicycle at the county fair. Ride a unicycle at the county fair. No other city offers these options. Number 5. Number 6, sorry. See? And we hope it's number 6. Number 6, things you can only do in El Paso, Texas. Well, a lot of people don't know this, but El Paso, Texas is in the midst of a huge history project where they're exploring the origins of the city. They're trying to find family stories, community stories, ghost stories. And one of the ghost stories they found out about that nobody really knew about was the tale of the El Paso Watchman. So, of course, El Paso in Spanish means the pass, which refers to a mountain pass just outside of town. And in the early days of the Pioneer Trail, there was a watchman assigned to wave a lantern back and forth to indicate the direction of the path in the darkness and for travelers. It was a safety feature provided by the town at that time, the very young town of El Paso. And one time the watchman was waving his lantern back and forth, and a traveler mistook a low-flying airplane mistook the lantern as a landing strip and dive bombed the plane, unfortunately, into the trail, killing the pilot. Just grazing the top of the head of the watchman with the bottom of the plane, and then the plane in an attempt to land it. But of course, it's a hilly area. Like I said, it's a mountain pass, a hilly pass, and unfortunately, the pilot died. And that pilot has been known to this day to roam that pass, to roam the trail with his own lantern, waving it back and forth as a warning to travelers that should they go past his lantern, they may not make it to the next morning alive. Guys, that's number 6. It's a terrifying tale. Number 7, things you can only do in El Paso, Texas. All right, we talked about politics a little bit. There are 3 different offices that you can hold they can run for in El Paso, Texas, that are in no other cities. These particular offices. One, you can be the licker of stamps. Now, a lot of people don't like to lick stamps because they get that gummy taste in their mouth. El Paso has a person that will lick your stamps for you. And then, because you don't want to touch their mouth or their tongue, they'll, with a gloved hand, a medical glove, they'll take the stamp and put it on your letter for you. You never have to touch anything. It's pretty useful, actually. Unlike a lot of public offices, this one actually provides a valid use. Number 2, you can have a, you know how when you get those Parmesan cheese cans, and you get to the bottom, and you have to pound the can to get the sometimes you don't use it for a while, and it gets a little thick in the bottom. They have a girl or guy, depends on who wins the office, that will pound the Parmesan cheese can, or if you have more than one in your cabinet, or some people keep them in the fridge, to keep them nice and loose, so that when you go to pour it, when you go to spread it, sprinkle it on your spaghetti, your pasta, whatever, it comes out in a nice, even fashion. That's a real office in El Paso, Texas. A lot of people don't know. But you can run for that office. It pays well. And finally, the third office in that city that really I've never heard anywhere else in my travels, and I've lived in a few places, lived in a couple countries. And that is you know how you order something online and they say it's blue, but when you get it, it's kind of a purplish. Well, this is a guy that works at Amazon. In other words, El Paso has their own guy that works at Amazon, or girl. It's been both over the years. And you can call them. It's a hotline, the El Paso hotline to the Amazon distribution center. And you can say, hey, I'm looking at these slacks, these khakis, these jeans, these gabardines. I'm looking at this shirt, this hat, these gloves. These kids' clothes, whatever it is. And you can say, hey man, it says it's blue, but it looks like a royal blue to me. What exactly is it? And they will pull the item and describe it for you accurately. And because you sometimes need the eye of somebody that can really look at the fabric, and they'll say, no, it's not really a royal navy. It's kind of, you know, in the office light, it looks sort of purplish, but I took it outside, and in the daylight, it kind of takes on an aquamarine hue. And people love this service. So they don't have to then get the item, pack it up, send it back, right? Because it's the wrong color. Or if it's a cheap enough item, they just decide to keep it, because why go through all that hassle of sending it back to Amazon? With this service, you avoid all those problems. Number 8, things you can only do in El Paso, Texas. Number 8. Guys, in El Paso, you can participate in a number of sports, but one that's unique to El Paso is called Paso Ball. And Paso Ball is sort of like, a little bit like volleyball, but instead of bumping a ball back and forth, you toss one of those playground balls, one of those sort of gray or burgundy colored playground balls filled with marbles and rocks. And it's it becomes a little bit of dangerous, right? Adds a element of danger. So El Paso ball has 5 players aside, just like volleyball. You serve the ball into service, and of course you play it just like volleyball, but with a spike. If you're able to hit somebody in the head with the Paso ball filled with marbles and rocks and knock them out, that's the goal. It's not a battle to the death. It's a battle to everybody else on the other side is knocked out. So that's a really, really popular sport. Now it goes all the way back. There's a certain Mayan influence in El Paso, being so close to Mexico. And back in the day, the Mayans had a version, this is true, a version of basketball where the losers of the game were killed. So this is sort of a modern version where nobody dies, everybody lives to play again. But you are allowed, and the goal is to knock them out by hitting them in the noggin with the El Paso ball full of rocks and marbles. Guys, people love it in El Paso. That's really the only place on the face of the earth that you can see El Paso ball played, and probably good for the rest of us. Number 9, the things you can only do in El Paso, Texas, guys. Of course, you can take an Uber, you can take a Lyft, you can ride a scooter. Lots of public transportation options, right? But going back to the city council, the El Paso, Texas, has council member Tuesdays. If I could learn to speak, if I could learn to enunciate words. Council member Tuesdays, where council members will give you a piggyback ride to your destination for a small fee. You don't even, and just like most Lyft and Uber drivers, you don't have to tip. Was that a Lyft and Uber joke on the side? I think that was a bonus joke. Folks, tip your drivers. That's all I'm saying. Number 10. Number 10 of things you can only do in El Paso, Texas. Guys, a lot of people don't know this, but in the middle of El Paso is a theater in the round. And so what is that? That means a theater where all the seats are circular in a ring around the center stage. And it's a small theater in the round, and they have different events there. But every Friday, they have Citizen Soapbox Friday, where you don't actually stand on an actual soapbox. They did that to start it, but after a while people were like, okay, we get it, you don't need to stand on the soapbox, you just stand right on the stage and you can say whatever you want. You get 2 minutes. You can do poetry, you can sing a song, you can tell clean jokes. They used to have a dirty joke option, but it just got outrageous because that's all anybody was doing, and there's kids. You can tell clean jokes, you can tell dad jokes, that kind of thing. You can vent at the government. You can yell political speeches. You can scream and yell, okay, as long as you keep it clean. You can act like a complete idiot, okay, for 2 minutes. And this happens every Friday, Citizen Soapbox Friday, at the theater in and around in downtown El Paso. Now, you may say, well, how will we know downtown El Paso from the rest of El Paso? You won't. You can't tell any difference. But you will be able to get up. You got to get a little early for sign up. They cut off the sign up to 50 people. Well, let's see. It's a 2-hour deal, 2 minutes each, 60 people. They cut it off to 60 people, 2 minutes. It's a 2-hour thing from noon to 2 every Friday. And a lot of people say, because El Paso always ranks very high on mental health surveys of cities in America, always very high, that the mental health in the city is strong, people are happy there, and one of the reasons they point to is Citizen Soapbox Friday, because it gets everybody to vent their frustrations, and therefore for the rest of the week they're happy as clams. Guys, off the top of my head, with some bonus jokes, and I'm not even sure if the count was right, that was complete waste of time, but it was a lot of fun. Those are 10 things you can only do in El Paso, Texas. Talk to you soon.